Hello everybody, hope you're doing okay. Welcome to a rather dark and cold autumnal evening here at Fringford, home to Flora Thompson of Larkrise to the Candleford fame. What I thought I would do is a quick video taking you through my current rotation of shoes, the ones that I actually wear day to day, as opposed to the Venu Pluses, which come in and get filed very quickly. So these are my race shoe of choice at the moment, the Puma Nitro Elite Fast R3. These are the shoes I wore to the 1838 at Mid-Cheshire 5K the other week. And I've also done another 5K in them and a 5-mile race. All those races went very well. So these I've only done 50 miles, and you can see the outsole is performing perfectly well out there, okay. It's a very minimal shoe, it's a very light shoe. In my size, in UK 13, it's about 229 grams. Got a nice mesh upper here, very see-through. Kind of reminds me a bit of the Vaporfly 1, which is also my other favourite shoe of the last few years for sure. So in that sense, very similar. Quite a narrow fit for my narrow feet, but having said that, I've had to pull in the laces a fair bit, so I think you would get an okay fit if you had a wider foot, I'm sure. But I think just the propulsion in these, they're not overly soft like some of the shoes at the moment, but equally they're not firm. But you do feel like you sort of land here and you just sort of need to get this sort of like bounce forward. Not quite sort of like a spring, but this bit here at the front, this cantilever, almost like this bit that sticks out the plate. You never quite know if that's really a gimmick, but it does seem to have some sort of thing to it, because I suppose because the actual stiffness in the plates extends right under your toes, and that is always traditionally I had the most wear in my shoes. That tends to be where I most toe off. So I think this is a shoe that really does sort of seem to suit my style. And so yeah, definitely a winner there. And are you going to get a new pair soon? I think there's a new drop coming out soon, isn't there? If you go from one extreme to the other, another Puma shoe. This is the Puma Velocity Nitro 4. This is basically my daily trainer of choice. Now I've done about 100 miles in these, and definitely an improvement on the Velocity Nitro 3, but a very similar feel. It's a lot lighter. You've got all nitro foam. Don't think it's the same nitro foam in this. It's one of those annoying things that they call the foams the same when they're not really, basically. But yeah, definitely a very good daily trainer, very basic shoe. You can pick this up with a discount for under £100, which is really something to behold. Another rather narrow shoe, so that is definitely a winner for me. I think they did do a wider version in the Velocity Nitro 3, but I haven't seen a wider version yet, not that I would want to get one. But yeah, just a very comfortable shoe. Has a nice lot of flex in it. There's obviously no plate in this one. There's no real stiffness agents at all. The foam's fairly soft, but not too soft. And you feel like you've got a very little bit of ground feel here, but not too much. Just has enough protection and just does the job really of having a very good daily trainer shoe. So yeah, and the good plus point is it's just so cheap as well. Now moving on to my alternative sort of race shoes. I haven't actually raced in these yet, but these are becoming like session shoes. These are the Metaspeeds. Now you have to turn them around to tell which is which. The one with the red outsole is the Sky, the one with the black outsole is the Edge. I've done a similar amount of mileage in both now. I've done about 60 miles now in the Edge, and I think I've done about 50 in the Sky, and I've almost liked swapping between the two. And I still can't really decide which I prefer. So the Edge has just a very slightly softer feel, I feel, because you've got more foam under your toes, and it's the softer FF Leap stuff. Now, compared to the Ray, which I don't have, apparently the Ray is really, really soft. Well, I always think that both the Sky and the Edge aren't anywhere near as soft as you might think from this FF Leap foam. And especially here at the heel, when you've got like the older foam, I'm not quite sure what that's called, I can't really remember. But to me, I tend to be more on my toes. So I'm not really feeling too much here at the back at all. I think what I would say though, that if I did want a bit more support at the back, this stuff is a bit more firmer and it just feels slightly more stable, I would say, the Edge. Having said that, with the Sky, I do find it's a shoe for me that I feel like it's actually better the faster you go. I've done a good 5K session in it. I did some very fast 100, 200 meter reps on the track. Not so good, I thought, when I went out for a longer run. I know Andy, FOD runner, went out for like a 22-mile run in these out of the box. And yeah, I find them almost slightly harsh. I think after a while, because the plate is so high here, it's right under your toes almost, I started to feel like it was actually quite firm and almost a bit uncomfortable. And I think the plates in the Metaspeeds are quite stiff as well. But having said that, these are incredibly light. The Edge comes in at 205 grams in my size UK 13. And the Sky is just a fraction more. I think it's like 3 grams more. So compared to some of the shoes, I also like the Venu Plus, literally almost double the weight. So when you got a pair of these on, you really do feel like you've got a light shoe on. Not as light as the Streetfly 2, to be fair, but a lot more protection and the shoe design for going longer for sure. Although having said that, I don't think I'd actually want to run a marathon in these, just maybe not quite to my style. So I'm glad I got these, a bit like Andy, maybe not absolutely excited by them. It's difficult though when you've got the Puma up against it though, because just I feel like it's a shoe that's just so much better for me. Moving along to super trainers, as it were. Well, I've got the trusty Endorphin Speeds here, rather glowing up the nighttime lights here in this sort of Volt colourway. And yeah, very much a return to form with the Endorphin Speeds, but having said that, it's a version of the shoe which I think is very familiar. And I think I said in my initial review, is there really much difference between the 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5? I think this is probably, to me, the favourite over at least the 3 and the 4, just because of that flared out Achilles heel there. So I don't really have any sort of rubbing that I did get in the 4 especially. And I think the 3 just became a bit wider than the 1 and the 2. So it's got the same width as the 3 and the 4. But I don't really sort of notice the width so much. And, you know, I treat this as more like an all-purpose shoe. If I just want to go out and do some easy miles, if I want to go out and do a long run or long run-ish, then this is a shoe of choice for sure. So it's always been a shoe that has been very versatile. I've done, I think, just over 100 miles now in these, and you can see the wear there is not looking too bad, is it? And that one, I never found the Endorphin Speeds to last incredibly long. I think for me, the maximum I want to take them is 250. Haven't really noticed any problem with that so far, so at least I think I'll be able to get these to 250. But yeah, it's always a good shoe to have, the Endorphin Speeds. By modern day standards, I would say now that it sort of feels almost a bit like a bit of ground feel. Not max stack, it just feels like it's a good compromise shoe and one that sort of harks back to the start of the super shoe era. So if you want a sort of more continuity in that style of shoe, then I think this is definitely one to go for. Probably not the most exciting shoe, and it's probably a bit overpriced compared to the Evo SLs of this world. But yeah, I never really got on with the Evo SL, so you won't be finding that featured in this video in whatever fit they currently have. According to Scuso, all the fits have changed, so it's interesting. But yeah, I think it's still basically a shoe, not really for me. Anyway, so yeah, definitely Endorphin Speed is a good one. And 100 miles done in it so far, and more to come yet. Now the Zoomfly 6, I actually went out of them again last night. I thought they'd gone a bit flat, but I think maybe I'd just done a run where I was running a lot of pavement. It was very uneven, and wore them last night, and it was actually, they were actually fine. I've done just under 200 miles in these now, and you can see that there's not looking too bad at all there. I think it just got a bit dirty from last night, but there's not much wear. You've always got a bit of wear there at the front where I tend to toe off, but in this one's not looking too bad actually, to be fair. So yeah, I think, well, I thought I was going to retire these, but maybe I'll do a bit more of them. When I was using them, last winter, I was using them for sessions, long runs, and basically any sort of like run where I just sort of fancied wearing a nice shoe. I did notice now with these yesterday that they just feel slightly heavier then, because I've been wearing all these Metaspeeds and Fast Stars and stuff like that, very light shoes. So these definitely did feel a bit heavier, and then interestingly, of all the shoes that I'm featuring at the moment, these are the heaviest. I think they're about 330 grams, which isn't exactly too much, is it? But yeah, it's all relative these days. And the last shoe I want to touch on today is the Vaporfly 4, which I've now got to 240 miles. So it's starting to look in a bit dodgy there in terms of the wear, but it's still holding up okay. I tend to have been using this now as my long run shoe. I think I've done about my last 4 or 5 long runs in these shoes. I think the maximum I've done in them is 14 miles. I also took them out to do a session on Saturday evening. So in that sense, they've almost like become the super trainer, meant to be like the super racer. But just sort of feel that in the Vaporfly 4, I just had a rather indifferent race in them back in April, and I didn't even break 20 minutes. So I think since then, I've been a bit thinking that they really don't have the propulsion that the Fast Stars do. I also feel like with these, slightly mushy, but in that sense, it makes them a very good trainer because you feel like you're getting quite a lot of protection, but they're incredibly light. They're actually lighter than the Fast Stars by a little bit. They're nice, they're 222 grams. So in that sense, it's a very nice shoe to have. I just like the look in them as well. And it's a shoe that, interestingly, that actually feels to me lighter than the Metaspeeds. I don't know when I picked them up now, I feel that the Metaspeed is actually lighter, but on foot, it actually sort of feels lighter. I don't know, just the geometry of them or something like that. So yeah, I may well be looking to get a new pair of these. I'm on the lookout for sort of like a bargain, but you can see that quite a lot of wear there under the toes, but perhaps a bit cosmetic, but yeah. And you always, the problem with the Vaporflies, you always get a load of hitchhikers here in the middle. Like, almost always get some sort of stone, which is a bit annoying. And if you were in a race and picked up a stone, that will be a slight problem. So I think they really need to sort of try and address that somehow, make that a bit narrower. I mean, it's obviously saves a bit of weight there, but if you're picking up like a 20 gram, 30 gram bit of stone, not only it's going to be really annoying, but it's going to defeat the object of having such a light shoe. So I think, yeah, it's an interesting departure for Nike, this one, the Vaporfly 4. It hasn't really been very well received, has it? But in terms of an actual shoe that I'm using, this is the shoe I've actually worn the most this year. So in that sense, it's working really well. Just moving very quickly along to my Garmin watches. My main watch at the moment, I always wear two. So I would say that my main watch being the new one is the Venu X1. And I've got the Forerunner 965. What I tend to do is wear the Venu X1 on my left wrist and the 965 on my right. And people ask me why I wear two watches, where it's a bit like having a spare key. If you have a problem with the key, you lose it or something, you've always got a backup. And sometimes I've actually forgot to start the watch, or I thought I'd started the watch and I hadn't started the watch, or there was some problem along the way. So in that sense, it's always helpful. And I also find that having two watches, it evens things up, but also you've got two screens. So I might, for instance, have the map page on the Venu X1 here and the standard data page there on the 965. I've got distance, time, pace and heart rate. They're the four main metrics that I look at. I don't tend to look at pace too often, to be honest. I tend to sort of like look out for the auto laps just to get a feel of what I'm doing. But if it's an easy run, I know I'm running at about 8-minute pace, something like that. If it's a bit faster, maybe it's down to some more 7-minute pace. If I'm really going it down to 6-minute pace, I think I'm so experienced then, and I kind of know roughly what I'm doing. It's just a case of having a manual check, but also very much like to sort of see the stats afterwards. A nice little touch on the Venu X1 is that you can have this page here where you have the metrics around the edge of a map. So if you've only got the one watch on, this is my favorite page because you can look at virtually everything on there. And I've also got the Garmin HRM 600, which complements all the new metrics you can get. Some of them I'm still trying to work out what they all are. But one of the big advantages of the HRM 600 is that you can actually charge the watch by the same charging mechanism as you can the watches. So you've just got the one cable that can charge your heart rate strap and your watches, and the Venu X1 has the same as well. The X1 has a fabric strap. I think you could get like a normal strap, but I quite like the strap. And also the fact it's like a square watch, so it gives you a very large real estate. Another thing with the Venu X1, it actually speaks out the laps.
Lap 1, 13 seconds.
And also when you're running, you can turn on a little flashlight, like it's quite nice for safety. And when you actually stop running, you can then turn the flashlight on continuously, and it provides a very handy torch. Very handy actually when you're at night and you just want to wander around in the dark, as it were, like going to the loo without disturbing Sue or something. It's very handy to have a little torch. So if I put the torch on full, you can see how bright that is. And if I turn that away, yeah, you can see how bright that is. That's only on the third setting there, and if I put it up to the top one, it gets even brighter. And also, you can have it as a red one as well, so maybe if you had two watches, you could have one on the back as your safety light as well. So hope you found that useful, the kit I'm currently using. If you've got any questions down below, please let me know. Anyway, hope you found this interesting. Like and subscribe on that, and see you next one then. Bye. Actually, I managed to record a video when it's actually been raining. I'm under this tree here on like a kid's playground. So yeah, things that you do to make a video. Things you do to actually avoid doing a video indoors. I always find like to be in the natural environment, shall we say. You feel like a bit like the Daleks here as well, doesn't it?